horror novelist Stephen King has had over 40 movies adapted from his work, and that's not counting TV shows and miniseries.
The world's greatest writer.
With so many films to choose from, what are the best Stephen King adaptations?
Jesus!
We've whittled this massive catalog down to his 13 best films.
Shut the doors! Shut the doors, my God!
These are truly the movies that not only captured the best of King's work, but also became cinema classics in their own right. Here are the top Stephen King movies of all time.
I'm sure she'll be absolutely fascinated. She's a confirmed ghost story and horror film addict.
And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door.
The first entry on our list is The Dead Zone. Long before Stephen King's 1979 novel The Dead Zone served as fodder for a TV series, it inspired a 1983 film from director David Cronenberg. Cronenberg, who'd already made a name for himself with surreal horror films like Videodrome and Shivers, brought that signature touch to this gripping psychological drama. The Dead Zone starred Christopher Walken as Johnny Smith, a humble schoolteacher who is injured in a car accident, trapped in a coma for 5 years, and awakens to discover he can psychically glimpse into a person's past, present, and future with a mere touch. Less grotesque and violent than many of Cronenberg's horror efforts of the day, Dead Zone was a bleak and unsettling film that made full use of Walken's peculiar presence and gravity as an actor.
I don't know what to do.
You don't have to do anything.
What's... Gerald? Oh. Hey, what's happening?
For years, it was thought that King's 1992 outing Gerald's Game, which involves a woman handcuffed to a bed fighting to free herself after her husband has a heart attack, was unadaptable. But then writer-director Mike Flanagan came along and knocked it out of the park. Starring Carla Gugino as the trapped, desperate Jessie, Flanagan's Netflix horror movie is superb small-scale suspense and features an immensely captivating performance by Gugino. Taking place mostly in one room, Gerald's Game is a set of tightly wound gears that cranks out dread.
The coroner said it was an accident, but it was no accident. It was a monkey.
A premise as deceptively simple as, if you wind up the monkey, someone brutally dies, leaves a lot of room for error, or for the gnarly kills to be the only things anyone remembers. But from that setup, director Osgood Perkins builds a multifaceted roller coaster of a midnight movie that elicits as many laughs as shocks or gross out gags, and succeeds at both animating and skewering the power that death holds over us all. The monkey marches to the beat of its own blood-stained drum, and it's an irresistible rhythm to groove to. Perkins and cast balance the horror and comedy inherent in the movie's silly premise exceptionally well, and the surreal, absurd touches the Longlegs director adds to a world sketched out by Stephen King only help to set it apart from the less imaginative, body count-obsessed movies. The evil influence of the titular cursed toy results in blockbuster showcases for fantastic gore effects that, when paired with the film's surprisingly gentle stance on the inevitability of death, affirm how potent horror comedy can be when executed with a strong perspective and a willingness to get weird.
Oh, that's odd. I don't remember locking this.
Look at that.
What is it, Daddy?
Mist?
The Mist is based on a King short story found in the 1985 collection Skeleton Crew. Ostensibly a monster movie, The Mist finds a group of people trapped in a remote grocery store after a strange fog envelops the region and terrifying dinosaur-like creatures begin appearing. But the core of this horror sci-fi fusion is survival, and the length some will go to ensure theirs.
As a species, we're fundamentally insane. Put more than two of us in a room, we pick sides and start dreaming up reasons to kill one another.
The movie benefited from a solid cast, and director Frank Darabont actually garnered praise with a revised ending that deepened the dark tone of the story. Horror legends Stephen King and George Romero teamed up for 1982's Creepshow, which was conceived as an homage to the golden age of horror comics in the 1950s.
Happy Father's Day.
Including EC Comics' infamous releases and DC books like House of Secrets and House of Mystery. That anthology legacy is reflected in the execution of Creepshow, which revels in its juvenile B-movie status.
Oh no, not there!
The film also has the distinction of featuring original material written by King rather than a script wholly adapted from his prose work. While 2 of the 5 vignettes are based on his short stories, the remaining 3 are unique to Creepshow. These vignettes are cleverly glued together with animated sequences and a framing sequence starring King's son, Joe, now an accomplished horror writer in his own right.
Holy old Jesus!
Next on our list is The Green Mile, a period piece set largely within a prison and centered on a wrongly convicted felon.
Can you talk?
In this case, the prison is the Depression-era Cold Mountain Penitentiary, and the felon is John Coffey.
Yes, boss. I can talk.
The corrections officer in charge of the death row inmates is enthralled by Coffey's gentle nature and apparently supernatural healing powers, causing great emotional turmoil as he debates whether he can allow such a marvelous and obviously innocent man to be executed. The Green Mile is easily one of the most emotionally gripping King films, and further proof that his non-horror tales are often the ones most ideally suited for film.
Be all right, fellas.
You guys want to go see a dead body?
Rob Reiner directed the coming-of-age tale Stand By Me, based on King's novella The Body, collected in the 1982 book Different Seasons.
Talking, Jesus.
Stand By Me features narration by Richard Dreyfuss.
It happened in the summer of 1959, a long time ago, but only if you measure in terms of years.
And a who's who lineup of up-and-coming teen actors at the time, including Will Wheaton, River Phoenix, Corey Feldman, and Jerry O'Connell. This quartet played a group of friends who hear a rumor about a dead body being discovered and venture out to track it down and find small-town glory. This was another King film with a deceptively simple formula that really thrived on the strength of the performances.
Kids lose everything unless there's someone there to look out for them. And if your parents are too f***ed up to do it, then maybe I should.
King himself even labeled it as the first truly successful adaptation of his work.
Come on, you guys, let's get moving.
Yeah, by the time we get there, the kid won't even be dead anymore.
Hiya, Georgie.
Fittingly, one of King's most iconic novels, It, is also one of his most successful adaptations, shattering box office records. But more than just being a moneymaker, it's an effective horror film that pits a group of intrepid middle schoolers against the terrifying, inhuman killer lurking beneath the streets of an idyllic Maine town. It's filled with ample spookiness, devilish scares, and a horrifying performance by Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise the Dancing Clown. Its first chapter works well not just because it's frightening, but because it does something that so few horror films ever manage. It makes audiences care for these heroes as they face down the unimaginable. Just like the book, the half of the story featuring our main characters as kids is the more engrossing part, which is why only Chapter 1 scared up a spot on our list.
We'll float down here. Yes, we do.
Mike Flanagan's Dr. Sleep is a modern horror miracle, adapting King's sequel novel to The Shining about a grown-up Danny Torrance, Flanagan had to merge the world of King's prose and Kubrick's cinematic vision, since Kubrick's The Shining took many liberties with King's book, so much so that King himself disavowed the film. Flanagan had to bring both worlds together in a way that felt genuine, gripping, and scary. Visually, most everything we associate with The Shining comes from Kubrick, and Dr. Sleep is a beautiful, brutal blend of it all. On top of that, it's a fantastic film created by one of the best new masters in the horror game.
Slow night, Mr. Torrance.
Not for long, I imagine.
If you have a taste for terror, you have a date with Carrie.
That was the grindhouse-worthy tagline for Carrie, and it said all that needed to be said about this teen horror drama. Carrie was King's big break as a writer in 1974, and a mere 2 years later, it also became fodder for one of the best films based on his work. The titular character, Sissy Spacek, a prototypical awkward teenage girl who suffers from bullying at school and an overbearing, fanatically religious mother at home. She also happens to manifest destructive psychokinetic powers when she's upset.
Creepy Carrie! Creepy Carrie!
So you can imagine what happens when Carrie becomes the victim of a cruel prank at her prom. Carrie was praised both because of its terrifying qualities and its serious exploration of a very troubled character, easily still ranking as one of the very best of the traditional Stephen King horror movies.
Look what I got.
Misery operates on a very simple formula. It features only two main characters who spend most of the film locked away in a remote cabin in winter. But both the 1987 novel and Rob Reiner's 1990 adaptation really made the most of this formula. As with so many of King's stories, Misery features a troubled writer as the lead protagonist. James Caan starred as novelist Paul Sheldon, a man who is rescued from a car crash by a nurse named Annie Wilkes, played to iconic perfection by Kathy Bates.
I'm your #1 fan.
Unfortunately, as Sheldon's #1 fan, Wilkes uses her unique opportunity to trap Sheldon in her cabin and force him to write a new book that will resurrect his most famous character, Misery Chastain.
I have total confidence in your brilliance.
It was a great premise that allowed for Hitchcock levels of tension as Sheldon struggled to placate his demanding host and find a way to escape her clutches. Bates won the Academy Award for Best Actress for her portrayal of Wilkes, a character who still ranks as one of the all-time great horror villains.
I don't want her, bitch! I want her! And you murdered her!
Here's Johnny!
Stanley Kubrick's The Shining was born from what might be King's most famous novel, which told the tale of a man named Jack Torrance, another of King's struggling writers with a pronounced dark side.
Don't be so grouchy.
I just want to finish my work.
Torrance serves as winter caretaker for the remote, luxurious Overlook Hotel in Colorado's Rocky Mountains. A combination of cabin fever and a strong supernatural influence compels Jack to try and murder his family and join the many restless souls trapped within the Overlook's walls. The only thing standing in the hotel's way is Jack's young son, Danny, whose psychic gifts the hotel both craves and fears.
I'm scared.
In a twist, King has always been very adamant in his dislike of this adaptation, which he chalks up to Kubrick downplaying the family themes and the supernatural nature of the hotel, but both elements are now among the film's more praised qualities. The Shining is a technically brilliant film with innovative camera work and the use of physically impossible building layouts to create a subtly unsettling feeling. The Shining is so good that it manages to almost remain separate from King's name, ranking simply as one of the best horror movies of all time.
I believe in two things: discipline and the Bible. Here you'll receive both.
Finally, we reach the last entry on our list, and the best Stephen King movie of all time is...
Welcome to Shawshank.
The Shawshank Redemption. The movie was adapted from the lesser-known novella Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption. The movie starred Tim Robbins as Andy Dufresne, a banker convicted of murdering his wife and her lover based on circumstantial evidence and doomed to spend the rest of his days within the cold walls of Shawshank Penitentiary.
So be it.
Morgan Freeman co-starred as Red, the wise, world-weary smuggler of contraband.
I'm known to locate certain things from time to time.
While Shawshank often veered into dark territory, the movie was ultimately an uplifting tale about one man's refusal to give up hope in even the most depressing circumstances. Robbins played a capable everyman hero, but often it was Freeman who stole the show, both in person and through his now iconic narration.
We sat and drank with the sun on our shoulders and felt like free men. Hell, we could have been tarring the roof of one of our own houses. We were the lords of all creation.
It's perhaps ironic that Stephen King is best known for horror, yet the finest adaptation of his work is this inspiring tale of the human spirit. Those are our picks for the best Stephen King movies of all time, but we want to know what you think. Tell us your faves in the comments down below, and for more movie lists, reviews, and interviews, make sure to follow and subscribe to IGN.